what nobody tells you when you start to wake up spiritually? That you're going to end up alone. It's not a poetic metaphor or a dramatic warning. It's the direct consequence of seeing what others cannot see. And if right now you feel your friendships fading like smoke, if conversations feel empty, if you no longer fit in the places where you once felt comfortable, let me tell you something. You're not losing anything. You're gaining clarity. But it hurts so. It hurts because you were programmed to believe that loneliness is failure, that being surrounded by people is a sign of success. A lie. The crowd is the refuge of the asleep, and you have just opened your eyes. Osho put it brutally. Spiritual awakening is not a celebration, it's a funeral. The funeral of your old identity, of your old connections, of everything you thought defined you. And most people don't want to attend funerals. They prefer superficial celebrations where everyone pretends to be fine. When you wake up, you can no longer pretend. You see the lie behind every automatic conversation. You feel the falseness in every interaction designed to impress. And the worst part isn't that you change, it's that everyone else stays the same. They keep repeating the same patterns, the same complaints, the same circular conversations that lead nowhere, and you, stuck in the middle, feeling how every word you say crashes into an invisible wall. Here's the uncomfortable truth. People don't seek depth, they seek comfort. They want conversations that don't require them to think, relationships that don't force them to look in the mirror. When you begin to question, to dig deeper, to search for real meaning, you become a threat, not because you do anything wrong, but because your very presence reminds them of how asleep they are. Every time you talk about something that goes beyond the superficial, every time you refuse to participate in the social theater, you're showing them a mirror they don't want to see. And nobody hates the mirror more than the one who fears their own reflection. Think about this. How many times have you tried to share something deep, something that truly moved you, and they looked at you as if you were speaking another language? How many times have you felt that abyss between what you're trying to express and what the other person is capable of understanding? It's not your fault or theirs. You're simply on different frequencies. They tune into the radio of constant entertainment. You tune into the station of existential questioning. And there's no way to force someone to change the dial if they're not ready. Buddha knew this. When he achieved enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, his first instinct was to remain silent. He thought, who is going to understand this? Who will grasp something so far from ordinary experience? For weeks he considered teaching nothing, because he knew that spiritual truth cannot be transmitted through words to those who are not prepared. He eventually taught, yes, but look at the outcome. Most misunderstood him, many rejected him, some even tried to kill him. Awakening doesn't make you popular, it makes you solitary. And that solitude is not punishment, it's the price of clarity. Now comes the part that will really unsettle you. Your old friendships didn't disappear because you changed. They disappeared because they were never real. They were connections based on shared interests, mutual habits, the need to fill the void with noise. When you wake up, that noise becomes unbearable. You can no longer talk about trivialities for hours. You no longer find meaning in discussing who did what or who said what. Those conversations drain you exhaust you, make you feel as if you're betraying something sacred within you. And you're right to feel that way because you are. The problem is that society trains you to value quantity over quality. How many friends do you have on social media? How many people attended your birthday? How many call you regularly? As if numbers meant anything. As if 100 superficial connections were worth more than a single real conversation. When you awaken spiritually, those numbers start to drop. Invitations decrease, messages shrink, groups subtly exclude you, and at first it hurts because you interpret that as rejection. But it's not rejection, it's natural selection. Life is cleaning your circle, removing what doesn't resonate with your new frequency. Seneca wrote, "True friendship can only exist between virtuous people." He wasn't talking about moral virtue in a religious sense, but about people who seek something beyond immediate pleasure, beyond empty entertainment. When you awaken, your definition of virtue changes. You're no longer impressed by superficial success, accumulated money, social status. You begin to value authenticity, vulnerability, the ability to hold silence without filling it with verbal garbage. And those qualities are rare, extraordinarily rare. That's why spiritually awakened people don't have many friends, because they refuse to settle for less. But here comes the trap no one mentions: spiritual ego. Yes, it exists, and it's more dangerous than ordinary ego because it disguises itself as enlightenment. You start waking up and suddenly you feel superior. You believe you see more than others, that you're on a different level. And technically it's true, but the way you express it can turn you into an enlightened jerk. People don't distance themselves only because they don't understand you. Sometimes they distance themselves because you became unbearable, because every conversation becomes a lesson, because you subtly judge every choice that doesn't match your new path, because you project your journey as the only valid one. Osho warned about this constantly. Awakening makes you more humble, not more arrogant. If your spirituality separates you from humanity, you're doing something wrong. True enlightenment doesn't place you above anyone. It places you in a space where you can see with compassion the different levels of consciousness without judging them. When you lose friends because of awakening, ask yourself, did they leave because you evolved or because you became intolerant? Because there is a thin line between discernment and arrogance, and crossing it is easier than you imagine. The solitude of awakening has two faces. One is cleansing, removing toxic relationships, connections that drained you, friendships based on codependency or habit. That solitude is necessary. It's the empty space you need to grow without interference. But the other face is self-imposed isolation. When you use spirituality as an excuse to avoid the discomfort of human relationships, when you convince yourself that nobody understands you to avoid doing the work of building real bridges, that solitude is not enlightenment, it's fear disguised as superiority. Rumi captured it perfectly. The wound is the place where the light enters you. Human relationships are constant wounds, friction, misunderstandings, disappointments, but they are also where you truly grow. You can meditate in a cave for years and reach states of deep peace, But until you learn to maintain that peace in front of a friend who frustrates you, you haven't integrated anything. True awakening doesn't pull you away from people, it teaches you to relate to them from a different place. Without expectations, without needing validation, without clinging to whether they understand your path. So why do awakened people end up alone? Because the process of awakening destroys the foundations on which ordinary relationships are built. You no longer seek connection out of fear of being alone. You no longer tolerate empty conversations for social obligation. You no longer sacrifice your authenticity to fit in. And that inevitably reduces the number of people with whom you can genuinely connect. But here is the twist. Those who remain, those who resonate with your new frequency, those connections are so deep, they are worth 1,000 superficial friendships. The mistake is thinking you need many friends. You don't. You need one or two human beings who can hold the weight of your silence, who aren't scared when you dive into your darkness, who celebrate your light without envying it. Those people exist, but you don't find them in bars or social gatherings. You find them on the path when you are doing the real work of knowing yourself. They cross your path because they are on their own journey, and for a moment their path aligns with yours. Don't cling to them. Don't turn them into lifeboats. Enjoy the connection while it lasts and let it go when it's time to move on. Here comes the philosophical punch. Nietzsche spoke of the Übermensch, the individual who transcends established values and creates his own. That individual walks alone, not because he hates humanity, but because he can no longer live by the rules of the herd. Spiritual awakening is exactly that, leaving the herd. And the herd does not forgive the one who leaves. They will call you selfish, say you've changed for the worse, project their fear of loneliness onto your conscious decision to choose quality over quantity. Let them talk. Their opinion of your path is irrelevant because they cannot see it from where they stand. The loneliness of awakening is also a test. It's easy to feel enlightened when you're surrounded by people who reflect your new identity, when everyone speaks the same spiritual language, when every conversation confirms your path. But what happens when you're alone? When there is no one to validate your process, when the only company you have is your own presence? That is where you discover whether your awakening is real or just another ego costume seeking attention. True spirituality needs no witnesses. It stands firm in absolute solitude without collapsing. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "You can retreat at any moment into the sanctuary of your own soul." That is the key. Spiritual awakening teaches you that the most important companionship is your own. When you learn to be with yourself without fleeing, without distracting, without filling every second of emptiness with external noise, you stop needing friends in the conventional sense. It doesn't mean you don't value human connections. It means you no longer depend on them to feel complete. And here's the brutal truth. Most people don't want to be with themselves. That's why they fill their lives with activities, relationships, constant drama, anything to avoid facing their own presence. When you begin to enjoy your solitude, when you stop seeing it as something that needs to be filled, you become an enigma to them. How can you be alone and not feel miserable? How can you turn down invitations without guilt? Your peace unsettles them because it exposes their emptiness. Osho said that the true rebel is not the one who fights the system, but the one who stops needing it. When you awaken spiritually, you stop needing social validation, and that makes you the most dangerous rebel of all. You cannot be controlled with approval or manipulated with rejection. You no longer play the game, and that scares those who are still playing. That's why they push you aside, not out of hatred, but out of self-preservation. Your freedom reminds them of their prison, but listen carefully. Don't use awakening as an excuse for total isolation. There is a difference between conscious solitude and avoidance. Conscious solitude is choosing to be alone because it nourishes your being, because you need that space to integrate what you're learning. Avoidance is using spirituality as a shield to avoid facing your fear of rejection, your discomfort with vulnerability, your terror of being seen as you truly are. If you hide behind awakening to avoid real relationships, you're not awake, you're asleep in a more sophisticated way. The question you must ask yourself is, am I alone because I chose a path few understand, or am I alone because I'm afraid of being known? Because there are awakened people who maintain deep connections, who can relate without losing their center, who can descend into the ordinary world without being contaminated. They understood something crucial. Awakening doesn't separate you from humanity. It reconnects you with it from a more authentic place. Lao Tzu taught the way of water. Flow naturally, adapt without losing your essence, nourish effortlessly. That is the goal of awakening. Not to become an isolated ascetic looking down on the asleep, but to learn to move among them without losing your peace, without judging their sleep, without needing them to awaken for you to feel accompanied. You can talk about mundane things without feeling betrayed. You can share superficial spaces without losing yourself. Mastery is not in avoiding the world, it's in walking through it without being touched by it. So yes, you're going to lose friends when you awaken. You will feel that emptiness where there used to be constant noise. You will experience nights where loneliness weighs like lead, and you question whether it was worth opening your eyes. But you will also discover something the asleep never know: the freedom of being yourself without apologies, the peace of not needing applause to know who you are, the strength of walking alone when necessary without feeling abandoned. That has no price. The path of awakening is solitary, yes, but it is not empty. It is full of you, of your truth, of your unfiltered presence. And when you find someone who can walk beside you without asking you to go back to sleep, you will know that the wait was worth every second of solitude. Because that connection will not be an accident or a habit, it will be recognition. Two awakened souls meeting on the path and choosing to share a stretch together, without attachments, without expectations, just pure presence. And that, my friend, is more real than 1,000 friendships built on the lie of being who you are not. So now you know why you walk alone. It's not punishment, it's evolution. And if this message resonated with you, if you felt that someone finally put into words what you've been feeling in silence, then don't stay as a passive spectator. Subscribe to this channel, activate that little bell, because here we don't create content to fill the void, we create it for those who are ready to face it. And I want to know you I want to know that this reached the one it needed to reach. So leave me this phrase in the comments. I walk alone but awakened. When I see it, I'll reply personally. It's not a trick, it's a way to create real connection among those of us who understand that conscious solitude is worth more than 1,000 asleep friendships. See you in the next video, and remember, awakening doesn't make you popular, it makes you free.